Welcome to the Undeniable Culture Podcast, where we, the Undaunted team, discuss the business of creativity, culture, and what inspires us to be audaciously creative. My name is Ashton Edwards-Butler, and I'm the creative director here at Undaunted. And I'm here with Jonathan Menjivar-Lopez, our CEO and wearer of many hats, and then Myca Williamson, our account executive. So today, we're going to be talking about a very topical topic, tech and AI.
Yeah, my favorite subject.
Yeah.
Apparently.
So I think we should jump this conversation off by us all kind of like sharing or starting off by sharing our comfortability or like experience with dabbling in like AI and some of these newer tech tools. Like I will say that I just used like ChatGPT for the first time last week.
Nice.
And how was it?
It was great. I mean, I used it to do some research for an industry analysis. And I mean, that thing was, I mean, I will say it's really like scary to see in real time. But it was really helpful for what I needed, it to be. So, but I will say I haven't dabbled into a lot of like, some of the newer tools. I know a lot of the like some of the creative platforms that we use have AI like capabilities built into it, but I have not really explored as much. So what about you guys?
I've been using ChatGPT for a little bit now. It's been, I think they announced it, and, hey, you can get the beta, and I was on the beta. So I immediately jumped on that bandwagon. It's like you said, like there's already AI built into a lot of things we do. I have, we talk about the algorithm that Facebook and Instagram and TikTok are using, and that's an AI generative, element, but it's different to communicate with the AI and have it communicate back to you something of value. And I thought that was super, super. I mean, I think it's what I've been waiting for. Technology for a long time was like being able to talk to it and it talking to me. I started using it for just fun little things here and there. Just like, oh, let me ask it some, dumb question about something. And then I asked it a question about work, and that really opened the door for me a couple months ago. I was just like, hey, I need this work item thing. Can you help me put it together? It was for like a report, and it did it. I can't even remember what it was now. It's been so many.
I know that there was an issue with some like code, and you're like, how can I fix this? And it spit out a little piece of code you could plug in.
Yeah, that was weird too, because like I would have had to like reach out to a developer and be like, hey, here's the problem. Here are the things that I've tried, because it's on a content management system, so it should be at least easy enough, I thought, for me to do it. And so I went into WordPress, did all the theme functions that I thought would be appropriate to remove a capital letter off of every single word in a paragraph. Like every word was capitalized.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how it was happening and what it was doing. And I just like copied the code, pasted it in ChatGPT, and went like, hey, look at this code and tell me why this paragraph just keeps capitalizing every single word in this it has. And it was like, I don't have an answer for you. It doesn't look like there's anything in the code per se. It may be in your theme, but here's a little chunk of code you can put in the header, and it'll remove that problem and supersede all of the other elements. Now, I probably knew. I mean, I knew that there was something like that. I just wouldn't know how to apply it, how to put it in there,
Right.
how it made sense. It not only gave me the code, it gave me the instructions, and it gave me the reason why it thought it would be the best solution for me if I was trying to fix this. And I thought that was super, super clever.
And it was like a simpler problem. I think it was just a CSS fix, if I had to guess. Yeah. But when you have to cut out, someone who's a specialist, right? And you're able to do this tiny thing.
Yeah.
It's more efficient, right?
Yeah, I would have sent it to the developer, and the developer would have been like, it's a minute of my time. I'm just going to do it. And then, like we'll lump it into a bigger project. I just didn't want to go through the whole, like, let's go into Slack. Let's create a ticket for it. Let's, do this whole interchange just for something that I might be able to do on my own. And it literally only took me like 5 minutes to figure out what the problem was, what the answer was through ChatGPT, and implement it. So it was pretty quick.
That's cool. My experience with AI has either been like background experiences where I don't even realize I'm really interacting with an AI. And just for fun, like image generation, I'm very fascinated with that. And from a creative perspective, it's a little scary. There was, you've heard reports of people creating their own illustrations for their children's books and not using an illustrator so that they can publish it. And then someone will be like, oh, but that was the AI pulled it from my artwork, you know? So there's like a lot of implications that I want to like AI, and there's a lot of places where I'm excited about it. But as a creative, there's also a scary side.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like we should dive into that a little bit more in terms of like how we see, like, what are the negative implications for some of these tools, and maybe talk about some of like the positive things. So I think one of, the bigger things that kind of scares me like a little bit is taking out the human element, because I don't know what your experience is, but for me, it's like if I call into, customer service or something, I'm still the person that like presses 0, unless it's like I just want to pay the bill. Unless I just want to pay the bill, which I'll usually just do online. But it's like if I'm making the phone call, I've gotten to this point because I want to speak to a human, because I feel like, sometimes you'll, work with these chat bots and things online, and they can only take you so far before you have to really give like the specifics, of it. And so I'm starting to see a lot more, businesses move towards that model, because for them, it saves time and they don't have to have as many bodies and seats to answer calls. But I think overall, at one point, it could like negatively impact like the overall customer experience. So I feel like that's just one area where there could be like some friction.
I understand that, right? Most of the time, like the chat box, where you go in and you have a customer support system and, they're like, the chat is answering you. Like, I don't know about you, but if, my dad or my mom call me and they're like, hey, I have this problem. And I'm like, that's so simple. Like I would have been able to like do it, like just with a little bit of research and stuff. So I think a little bit of the chat box stuff is like, it's definitely like, for maybe individuals who do have questions and they are stuff that you can solve on the internet.
Right.
Whereas I think we're more in depth with the technology, and we can really go in there and start manipulating stuff and understand it. And by the time we get to the point where we need customer support, it's like something way beyond the chat box, right?
That's true.
But I do feel like this new ChatGPT augmented element, because like that's a very rudimentary like logic system, right? And we work with automation, and it kind of works the same way. You have this question and it starts filtering it and says it. But I saw recently where somebody was using ChatGPT to create really in-depth answers based on data sets and databases and previous tickets and how those things were resolved, and getting it even further so that where you have a question that is very technical, where you do need a human, like it'll get you there, but it'll get you there with a lot more context on what the problem is.
Yeah, see, that's an area of interest to me, because how do we teach AI to have a human understanding and a human thought path? Because I think of that movie and book, I, Robot, and in the beginning, the robot saves an old man instead of a little girl, because the old man had a slightly higher chance of surviving. Whereas most humans, no matter what, would go after the 10-year-old girl over the 80-year-old man, because that's how our human brains work. And it's like, how are we going to help AI think like we do? And is there ever going to be like that tension, the uncanny valley of AI, essentially?
That's difficult. That's a difficult question.
Okay, so I feel like that's a little bit like a catch-22, right? Because AI learns from us.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like there is no AI without us. If it doesn't have human behaviors to learn from, then it's not learning anything. I think there's this idea of making sure that AI is like inclusive and representative of like the whole versus, like the majority, right? Because I think, we saw this with the Google algorithm, right? When there was some bias in like its search results when it came to Black people. Yeah. And so But that's because there probably wasn't enough information being fed to the algorithm that generated positive images of Black people. And that's human error, even though we want to call it like error of the algorithm, that's human error because we fed it that error,
We inputted it.
Right. And so I think there's a larger responsibility for us to teach these programs in a more inclusive, I don't want to say right way, but I feel like in a more inclusive way so that it's actually representative of the entire human experience and not just of a few people.
Yeah, at South by Southwest that we went to recently, Google was there talking about this exact issue. How they would have file folders that would label people with darker skin colors as not people, as animals, or just wrong. And they were like, how can we create AI that doesn't do harm, that doesn't further push bad stereotypes or have bias? Because one issue with the AI thing is that you'll ask it a question and it'll give you the result, right? But where is it pulling that information from? Is it just the top source?
Right.
Rather than going in and using critical thinking to, look at more than one resource.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that they've integrated it into Bing, it gives you, like, it's pulled it from multiple sources. So it'll say, like, it'll be like, here are the sources we pulled this information from. So it'll cite its sources, and it'll use quite a few, just so you can pull it up if you want to do further research, which I think is a clever way of making that bridge and that gap. But yeah, I mean, it's just, for me, it's like we haven't even solved that problem for search, and we're already putting it into AI.
Well, yeah, but Facebook is really, encountering that with the sharing of false news or misrepresentational news.
Right.
So, like, I wonder how AI is helping them solve that problem.
Yeah. So I guess when we talk about like the future of this, right, because we're kind of sitting in this very like rapid growth phase of these types of technology. But when we think about like the overall social impact of, these advancements, do you think that this type of technology will do more good than bad? Or kind of what do you see the future of this looking like?
The question has a lot of different contexts, I think. I think for the context of our industry, like marketing, advertisement, branding and stuff, it has a very philosophically difficult question about the future of how we consume content and media. Like, a lot of the things that we do, that we rely on and that our customers rely on, are being able to advertise on websites as people are searching for a recipe, or being able to find a brand, advertise to somebody while they're researching a specific topic on the internet. And if the model moves away from a search-based model, which we've kind of been in for the last 20 years, and move towards more of a answer model where you ask a question and it'll give you the answer. And like in ChatGPT, like in the native platform, it won't give you the sources like it does in Bing, right?
Right.
And who knows what Bing might decide later on, or what Google Bard might decide on its AI later on how to manage that. But if you are not searching and in your search path you're coming across ads, then what does that mean for advertisers? What does it mean for the support industry developed around being able to create these ads? A lot of Google's revenue comes from ads from search. A lot of Microsoft's Bing world is going to definitely rely on ads, but there's not, in my mind, a way of doing that with a chat functionality or a AI chat.
I wonder if people will be paying for their information to come up first, and advertising will come in either at the point of like data entry, like, hear this advertisement before you hear this answer. Like, I would hate that. But YouTube used to be free, and now we have commercials, and we all hated that.
Yeah.
So I think the best answer is it depends. Because to your point, Myca, it depends on our input,
Right.
How we go about this is going to determine the harm or the good it'll do. Just like when computers became a staple, right? It's how you use the computer. Some people will troll the internet and be mean and awful people, and other people are doing research on their computers to save lives. So I mean, it's as diverse and of a breadth of answers as humankind is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think overall, what we might start to see, like on a more macro level, which is something that I feel like I'm already kind of starting to see, especially like with the Gen Zers, but like there's like this longing for the nostalgia of like the past, like before things got so advanced. Like I was at Urban Outfitters the other day, and like they were selling a bunch of like old like Kodak cameras and photo albums and or record players or things like that. And so while I think there's space and there's a place for all of this like technological advancement and automation, I think as humans we'll still like crave like simpler times or things that kind of take us back to us being in a certain era. Even I've been like seeing their companies like coming out with like dumb phones, right? Like there's no internet on it. There's no, like, it's just for you to like make phone calls and and so I think as things become like super automated or like hyper automated, people just might start to crave just more simpler things or experiences. Because I think with technology, so much of it is like overstimulating. And I think, having something like just your regular camera without the stress of like seeing what it looks like or posting it on social or whatever, gives this element of it just being, like this personal experience versus it being digitized. So
I bet they're going to come out with like VR 90s. Like step into the 90s. Yeah. This phone is connected to the wall.
Do you feel, Myca, that that's kind of like, I mean, that we've already kind of seen a lot of that stuff where things become, very efficient and very automated, and then people will start becoming, artisans in the space, like leather goods. We can manufacture leather goods really, really fast through machinery, but there's still people who specialize in creating handcrafted leather goods, right?
Right, yeah. Right.
That's kind of like the thing with AI, right? Mm-hmm. Where, there is like AI generated, and right now it's not as to me, it feels like it's like a collage more than anything else, right? It may get to the point where it's like really efficient at producing something that looks good and feels good as art, but still, I mean, I think I would rather give money to somebody who's handcrafting that by themselves in their own vision than something mass produced that way.
Mm-hmm. I have a question.
Yeah.
And so one of the benefits of AI is that it'll take the menial and more dangerous tasks off our plates, right? In theory, that would open up society to enjoying life a little bit more. Like if there is less work to do you think that people will fill it with productivity of a different nature? Or do you think we'll allow ourselves to, experience life a little bit more?
I think a lot of that has to do with like the culture of our society.
Yeah.
Although I think we are moving towards not wanting to be as like on and productive all the time. I think it is very much the, typical American behavior is to like hustle, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And, if you save time or money here, then that means you can use it on, something else versus, when I spent time in Europe, it's a very slow life, like people take 2-hour lunches and, everybody's drinking wine and, there's, the day just seems to move a little slower. People aren't like on this, whole hustle and bustle. So I think that there would have to be more of like a culture shift for us to really see, the desire to be less productive. Because even like with myself, I'm like, okay, cool. If I'm saving time here, that means I can do something else. Not I'm saving time. That means I can just
spend time with my family. Yeah. I think it would prompt a culture shift because, there's a lot going on, especially after COVID. We're thinking differently. So maybe one of the positive takeaways for AI is it makes more time for life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of been like the I don't want to say like the American lie is what I want to say, but it's like we thought the assembly line system was gonna save a lot of time.
Thank you, Henry.
Right.
And then we thought the farming automation is gonna save a lot of time, and then this and that, and now we're just like, okay, now we're just stuck to a 40-hour work week, and we have been for 60, 70 years now. And it hasn't changed, even though things have become more efficient. We have computers now, and we have computers in our hands, our cell phones, and still we're still grinding. So I think it's less about the time that we would save and more about how we perceive what that time is for. And maybe ChatGPT will give us the answer.
Let's ask ChatGPT, right? Like little clairvoyance, AI.
I think at the end of the day, like ChatGPT and AI is just like a mirror on society, right? It's just like what we put into our digital space. It's like just holding a mirror up to it. So it's kind of like how you look into a mirror and it looks like a different world, it looks like it's just a little bit uncanny because everything is flipped. I think it's like that, right? That's kind of the thing. And so long as we have that type of culture, it's going to be very uncanny for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to bring up an interesting statistic around this topic. There was a statistic from driversed.com that says 67% of Americans believe that self-driving cars are safer than regular cars. And so just kind of going back to this idea of how, these types of technologies can like negatively or positively impact our society. To see that like 67% of Americans believe in that is actually kind of shocking, because I feel like there's a huge shift in those, in that type of thinking. But I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there was this video that was kind of going around social media not too long ago, and it was like a woman that had fell asleep in her Tesla. And I was just like, wait, there's so many red flags here. And so it just got me thinking about, all these types of activities and things that we're trying to automate. And it got me to thinking about like some of the dangers of some of these things. So I guess my question for you guys is like, what do you think some of the risks associated with these technologies are? And or like if you could bring AI into like any part of your life to make your life easier, what would that look like for you?
And I love the idea of self-driving cars. Like, I'm the person who drives in our family. I'm driving everywhere, and I've done it for so long. And it's been cool to see Tesla's AI system be able to really iterate on its own data and improve and really benefit from it. I know that there's some risks and some dangers in it, and that kind of sucks, but I don't know. One of the brands, the first thing that I thought was the brand that I'm more just really excited to persevere is called Zoox, Zoox, I think.
Okay.
Maybe something else. May completely miscite that, but they're a car company that is making self-driving cars that don't look like cars on the inside. It looks like basically like a train, like a bus or something, where you like get in it, you can 4 people can like talk amongst each other, and then the car drives wherever you need to, and it goes. The front of it can be either side. It just goes. And so I like that as a service, because they're not trying to build cars for us to purchase. They're building cars as infrastructure and to move people from one place to another autonomously. And I've always said that the career I envision for myself, when I'm older and, maybe retired and I want to invest into something, is like seeing how infrastructure, especially car infrastructure, can communicate with each other. Because a lot of the times I'm thinking, well, if my car knew that the car in front of me was going a certain speed, no matter what kind of car it was, what brand or whatever, if they could communicate, I could caravan a lot easier, down the freeway, going somewhere, especially on long trips. I know that there's functionality to do that already, but, the more we can advance that type of technology, the safer I feel like we would be as a society.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
But that's, how I feel.
Definitely get rid of traffic, I feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like autonomous cars are the solution.
That does sound great. Instead of just making the highways bigger.
Yeah, because like everybody, especially when you're like on, we're in DFW, we've all seen like the slowdown, and it's just because like there's a car like on the side of the road, and it's just like everybody's like staring at it.
Yeah.
And driving.
Massive bottleneck.
And it's just like there's no reason for you to be slowing down here. Just go, mind your own business. And autonomous cars don't care. They're just gonna go. They're gonna get you to your destination.
Yeah. As far as risk goes for me, I think obviously there's a lot of potential for a lot of different risks, but if we think about it comprehensively, we do lots of testing, I think we can navigate a lot of that risk. Like I said, I saw Google talk about it, and they have their test kitchen where they test all of it, and they're like, well, it's still not ready because it is doing harm. And they're just comprehensively asking these questions from all these different angles to try and prevent it. On one hand, they probably don't want to get sued. But on the other hand, I think they're also really proud of what they're doing, and they also know this is some big steps into a new world, and they want it to be on the right foot, because in some cases, it could just be harm to a culture. In other cases, like with cars, it could be a wreck and potentially a life.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of risks, but I don't think that means we don't do it. I think it means we do it smart.
Yeah.
Because I would really, really love someone else to automate my grocery process. That. I like to eat, but I do not like to go grocery shopping.
You know what you should try? You should try to ask ChatGPT, like, here's the items in my fridge. Can you make a dish for me?
Yeah, but then like, what if I don't have stuff in my fridge? So like, they have refrigerators that help you build your list now.
Yeah.
So they're like crazy expensive, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of cool. I mean, I think an area that I would like to see AI a little bit more, especially as a former educator, is it having more of a place in the classroom to eliminate, the burden of responsibility that a lot of teachers have. I think there's space maybe like, in grading or like in attendance or, curriculum planning, something. I feel like there's space to help make that industry or that space a little more efficient and, just more valuable for the students. And, like I said, just kind of eliminate some of that stress that a lot of educators feel. But yeah, I just really like this idea of like AI assisted things. Because it's like, I think, so many of us, when we think about AI, we think of it like replacing humans. And I feel like the better solution for me is like it just helping
Enhance
us. Yeah, and enhancing our lives. Because, again, I feel like when you completely remove us from the scenario, that's when you run into those more risky situations. So, yeah, I like the idea of AI assisted is where I'm leaning.
I love what you're saying about education because, classrooms are really full for the most part, public education. So imagine if there was an AI to help a teacher navigate the individual needs of the student because of their, their learning profile.
Their learning style or
like when I was a kid, I'm dyslexic. I had to go to like special courses to help me learn to read. Imagine if there was an AI to help with that. Just to make everybody's life and experience a lot more a lot less suffering.
For sure.
There's elements, especially of like education in, K through 12, where it's, there's kind of a data set there, how well are you doing on some of the homeworks that you have, and how is your writing developing in a prompt and stuff. And because AI is becoming so efficient at like reading text, like I had a handwritten note that I couldn't read. So I took a photo of it, gave it to AI and told it translate it for me. And it did it, and it was great. And so you could do that, and then it can analyze it and then give you pointers and stuff. So like, it's definitely doable. And now it's just like
accessible.
Let's find the people who can make it happen and say like, this is something that we see an application for. I think that's the real core of what the AI movement looks like now. Is like, it's feasible. Now let's make it happen.
Yeah.
I need some focus, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think what we should do is wrap up the show by giving our listeners some of our favorite AI or tech tools that maybe they could try or learn more about. So I'm going to start with you, Jonathan, because I feel like you always are sharing some new cool tool.
Oh, I'll honestly, like, I'm just like, oh, that's cool. And then I start talking about it, and I don't know if I remember it to be able to give it to you a little.
What's that called again?
Yeah.
You need an AI?
Well, I will start by saying I have not personally used this, but I saw someone using it in a meeting that I was on last week. And you guys might have heard, but it's called Otter.ai, and it's like a platform that you can log into whenever you are about to have like a video call with somebody, and you'll see, like an extra profile pop up during the meeting, and it's taking notes for the call, so that you don't have to, worry about it. And so usually, I guess it's like 30 minutes or so after the call wraps up, it sends you, a cleaned up, condensed, optimized version of notes for your meeting.
Yeah.
So that's a tool that I have not yet used, but I'm excited to use it after, someone introduced it to me. And I also use Digit, which is it's an AI for saving, like automated savings. And what they do is like they do like daily savings. So it could be like $5 a day or $20 a day, but they look at like what's in your bank account, and they kind of decide how much you can like afford to save that day or that week. And you can set up like financial goals, and it'll kind of help you save based on that, like by breaking it down to like smaller goals. So that's one that I've used for a while, but the Otter AI is one I have not tried that I'm looking forward to using.
Very cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Because like, I have like 6 people meeting sometimes for like a board meeting with a Hispanic chamber that I'm a part of, and I'm the secretary. And so
There you go.
I've always thought, it'd be so much easier for me to just focus on the meeting and not taking the meeting minutes.
Right.
And of course, like it'll probably send me like a transcription of the thing, and give me what the minutes are, and then as that assistant, you can go in and
Exactly.
and be like, this is actually what the intentionality of here was. But yeah, that's a great one. I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, I have Rocket Money, and it does that savings intelligence. Cool. I love that. It used to be called Truebill, but Rocket Money bought it. But
I started using it after you showed it to me.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
It is. The tool that saves me the most is Grammarly, and it's not even their spell check, but it's like, here's how you can say this better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's how you sound, how you come off. I think if anyone is neuroatypical or neurospicy, that is super helpful.
I love that. Neurospicy.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so much appreciation for Google Workspace. I mean, I think it has a lot of cool stuff, and it's coming out with its own like AI assistant for email. But it's already already done that a lot of it, right? That like learns about your speech patterns, and gives you kind of like a suggestion, so you can just respond really quickly. You hit send, and that's it, right? And so I use that a lot because I spend a lot of time in email. Excited to see what that augmented AI would do to help me kind of build out some stuff, because I already kind of go to ChatGPT. I'm like, hey, I have this response I need to make. Can you make it more, concise? Can you make it more standard? Or what would you suggest? Just to get some ideas. And then I end up iterating on it, and then copying it over, changing some stuff, and sending it out. So I'm kind of already doing that, and I'm excited to see that on Google Workspace. There's so much new content that is being created using AI too. Like I just used Dolly to send somebody a meme.
That is
great.
We all use Google Drive or Google Maps.
Google Maps, yeah.
Yeah.
AI and stuff.
Yeah, to figure out better routes. And
yeah, I think it'll be exciting to see how, the technologies we're already using, evolve, but also we get introduced to new things that help us, explore new activities. So this is a really exciting conversation, guys. I'm looking forward to the next one. If there's anything that you guys found inspiring or educational, don't forget to use the hashtag #AudaciouslyCreative and share with us.
Send us your AI models.
Yeah, we need more cool apps.
Yes, send us your tools.
Thank you for joining us for the Undeniable Culture podcast, where we talk about the business of creativity. Thank you so much for spending 30, 40 minutes with us and talking a little bit about AI today. Hope you learned something. Please find more episodes at undeniableculture.com. You'll find us talking about other great AI
Topics.
Do you think we'll have like an AI generated podcast episode?
There we go.
That would be a fun experiment. Like,
Stay tuned. Interesting.
All right. Thank you so much.
and bye.
Bye.